Hi, happy Tuesday, besties and bosses. I'm so excited to hang with you. Today feels like a special Tuesday because we have our free masterclass today, but I always love hanging with you and having our lives. But today will be a little more formal. We do have a free masterclass. If you have signed up, welcome. You should have a playbook that you received that will help walk you through some of what we're talking about and give you an opportunity to work through some of this on your own, because we're talking all about how you can apply this to your business for making money on your terms. If you're like, what the heck are you talking about, Kim? If you're watching now on the replay and you didn't sign up and you want the bonus playbook, if you head to the top of the Facebook group, you can click on that image. That'll send you to a sign up page. If you just sign up, you will get access to the replay, which I will send out tomorrow morning. I'll make sure we put that bonus playbook in there for you as well, so you can have access to that. Either way, you can still watch this, but if you want that bonus playbook, my team made it all beautiful so you can, type your responses. They're editable. So editable, is that a word? So if you want access to that, be sure to grab that, sign up for that. Rick, hello, happy Tuesday. Nice to have you here. I'm excited to hang for today's topic. So for those of you, again, now we're on the replay. If you are new to my world, I know sometimes with the free trainings, you are new to my world. Hi, a big hello and welcome. I'm so happy to connect with you. I'm so excited for today's conversation. I feel like I should always give a quick intro, so I will give a quick intro on myself and then we'll dive right into the material. I do have a fair amount I want to cover with you all. We're going to workshop this together a little bit, so I do want to make sure we get into the material. So often on our lives on Tuesday, I have a topic and I tend to riff, but I actually have concrete notes. I want to make sure we do go through a few key topics, and I will preface before I give my intro, before we dive in, this is for you. This is not for me, this is for you. So if you have questions, if there's something you want me to clarify, if you have a question that isn't really related, but you think I could support you with it, throw it into the chat box, throw them at me. I'm happy to answer questions. And if it is a bigger question than today's topic, we'll do a live on it in one of the upcoming weeks. So throw those questions at me. I do love questions. But for those of you who don't know me, I am Kim Argetsinger. I'm a mindset coach and business mentor. I help my incredible clients who I love so much build, grow, and scale profitable businesses they're wildly in love with on their terms, is what I always like to say. We are all about making more money doing what you love, but we're all about finding your way to making money, your version of success, really doing this your way. And I'm such a big believer that business is not one size fits all. So if you signed up for this training looking for the blueprint and the plug and play formula to making money, I will say you will hate this training. You should just hop off right now. But if you want some insights and some lessons that I have learned in building a successful, profitable business on my terms, which I'll share a little bit more about, and you want to learn how to apply that to your business and some insights you can take to make money your way, then you are in the right place. Hey Mark, nice to have you here. It's so funny, sometimes Facebook tells me who's here and sometimes it does not. So what I want to do today for our training, because this is all about how you can make money on your terms, I'm going to walk you through my coaching framework, which is clarity, mindset, strategy, and action. This is what I use in my own business to be fully booked for years to make the money I do. This is also what I'm supporting my clients with one-on-one behind the scenes in various forms. At the end of the day, everything we're working through comes back to clarity, mindset, strategy, and action. I truly believe this is what leads to business success. So we're gonna walk through this, and I'm going to use the lens of making 96K cash in my business in 90 days as the lens we're looking through. This is not about you needing to make that much money. Some of you might be making way more money than me. Some of you might be making less money. That's not the point. The point is not the dollar amount. The point is, and I'll explain a little bit more about that because I do have some thoughts on the dollar amount there, but the point is really being able to apply this to your business and using that framework and some of what we're going to be talking about and some of those lessons that I am gleaning from my own experience. How can you apply this to your business? So really important as we're going through this, always with my live streams, but it feels particularly important today to say, I really want you to take this and think, how can I apply this to my business? What is the takeaway here? How can I make this my own? Not how can I take this as like, I need to do things the same exact way, or this needs to be my goal. It's kind of the whole antithesis of what we're talking about today. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if you have questions. It feels so important to me. So much of my mission and my work is helping people find their version of success, make money on their terms. I really want to make sure from this live stream you are getting that. So before we dive into the framework, a couple thoughts I have on the money aspect that came up for me. And the reason I titled this live stream 96K Cash My Way, and how you can take these lessons for making cash deposits on your terms. Some things that feel important that very much were lessons, takeaways for me. So I had my biggest cash month last month, which was a 38K cash month. And a really interesting thing I've noticed around sharing numbers and metrics in business, I think numbers get thrown around in the online space quite a bit, and I'm really proud of that. But what I'm proud about isn't the money. I know that I have clients who make, quite frankly, way more money than me. I have clients who are building their business and they're building up to, making their first 10K month. And I think it's so easy for us to get wrapped around a number and make the number the goal, or make the number mean something, or make a cash number or a sales number mean like, this is when you are good enough in business, or this is when you are successful. And I really think the numbers at a certain point become really irrelevant. And I have found, and this is something that I think I've probably shared this before in a different way, and I think it can be a little bit of a mindfuck, but I have found at a certain point, making more money doesn't change a lot. Really, when I think about money, is money amplifies what's already there. Money, I love money. I'm going to scale to $1 million. That is very much my intention. I am all about making more money doing what you love. I love what money can do for you. I love the resource of money, and money's a really neutral thing. It amplifies what's already there, which is why we're talking about making money on your terms and doing things your way. Because if what's already there is, I don't like my business, I hate the day-to-day of my business, I don't like the strategy I'm using, I am just trying to chase a number because I think when I reach that number, I will finally feel good enough, or when I reach that number, I will finally feel successful, that is just going to be amplified when you make more money. Like, that money is just like a big old magnifying glass for whatever is already there, which is why kind of the way you build it is the way you're going to sustain it. And setting those intentionalities is so, so, so important. The other thing is, at a certain point, quite literally not a whole lot changes for you as you're scaling and as you're making more money. And I think this is important to say because I have so many clients who get really wrapped around chasing the numbers, and then they're a little frustrated either when they reach that number and they're like, oh, everything's exactly the same. Because remember, money just, like, how you build it's how you're going to sustain it, and money just amplifies what's already there. And I think that if you're chasing money to feel a certain way, that can be a little bit of a like, oh, well, that's not what I expected at all. So now what? So I share that. I think we shared this I talked about this a little bit on one of the live streams where we were talking about upper limiting, because it's so helpful when you know that, so you can remove some of the pressure around a money goal and actually look at what's important that helps you make that money goal in the first place, which is getting clear on what's the work you want to do, what's the way you want to make that money, how do you actually feel good, how do you actually believe in the work you're doing, how do you actually be in service, like how can you focus on the things that actually matter and notice that money will become the byproduct. Other little preface or note that always feels important for me to share around numbers, and I think they're just helpful to understand because numbers do get thrown around so much in our online space, is there's a really big difference between sales and cash and overall revenue and profit. And I share that again because I know I'm really pleased and proud of the money I'm making in my business. And of course we will keep scaling, but I'm in no rush to scale any faster. Like, I'm really happy with the pace I'm at. That's why I talk about doing this my way, because I'm building my business in a way that's really sustainable. That's what I love fucking doing. Like, I love my business so much, which is what I hope for you. But I also have a really great profit margin. And I know, depending on what side of the, like, where you are in business, I know, numbers can seem really big or really small, but I know that I'm taking home as much money as a lot of people who are making $1 million plus. And so for me, I'd so much rather have a smaller revenue number and a bigger take home doing work I actually love. And again, that number is still gonna grow. Like, that's not what we're talking about here. Than get so wrapped up in chasing a number at the expense of loving my work, loving my life, feeling in integrity, feeling of service, the things that are, being in alignment with my values. So I want to share that here because I just, behind the scenes, hear so much from clients when they're just wanting to chase a number for the sake of chasing a number, just want to make money for the sake of making money, or being able to say, I think in our online space, it's almost like people just want to be able to say, I've had this K month. And I just want to release the pressure around that. And like, I get it from a marketing perspective. Like, I absolutely get how that can be a great thing or how that can temporarily feel like a really big win. But those wins are really short-lived. And what's going to last is the way you're actually feeling about your work in your day-to-day. And I don't know about you, but for me, that's what matters so much more. So I would really invite you, like, yes, I want you to make all the money in the world. And I want you to, you know, keep growing, keep scaling. That's the whole point of my work. But I want to remove some of that pressure and see it's really the way you make your money that matters so much more than the dollar amount itself. The way you make your money in terms of loving your work, your version of success, but also that integrity behind it. And then overall, it's not necessarily what we're going to talk about too much today, but I just always want to invite you to think about that profit you're taking home. And this isn't to say you have to have a massive profit margin. I know some businesses just require a, you know, larger expense. That's not wrong. That's not bad. This is not a conversation where it's like having expenses is bad in business. My expenses have absolutely gone up as I've grown in business, and it's important. Like, if I didn't spend more on things like team, I wouldn't be able to scale. So this is not that expenses are bad. Sometimes expenses are literally what help you make more money, but just being mindful of that again, so you're not getting to that comparisonitis and making yourself wrong when you realize you're maybe comparing your take-home profit and cash to someone else's sales numbers. Rick says, if you're making $1 million a year, but your expenses on running that business is $900K and you're working your ass off every day, you might as well get a job as a manager at McDonald's. You'll make more money per hour. Exactly. And I mean, here's the thing, if you're taking home, like, and here's like, expenses aren't bad. If you're still taking home $100K profit, I think in most places in the world, like, I think that's what's crazy about our online space, where we want to make like $100K a year a bad take home, where, I don't know, there's only a handful of jobs out there where you could make that much a year. And so I think it's just a nice reminder for all of us in the online space as well, where it's like being mindful of that and then just checking back in with what actually matters here. Do you like the work you're doing? Are you building your business in the way you want? So it almost gets to be a neutral conversation. It's not bad or good if you have more expenses, but just when you're in that place scrolling online and you're reading other people's posts and they're bragging about numbers, that's not wrong, that's not bad. All the celebrations in the world, but just having some context around that. Sometimes the number you're reading is a sales number. Sometimes it is a number that does not include what the actual take-home profit is or the cash is. And just to keep that in mind so you don't spin yourself out. And I find this helps you get your eyes back on your own paper, which helps you actually make more money in, you know, doing what you love on your terms. As soon as we spin out, then it's all about someone else's business and not your own business. But absolutely to what Rick said as well, I think that just puts it really well in terms of, you can make $1 million a year and take home $100K. You can make, I have a multi-six-figure business, I take home far more than that a year. So, you know, kind of ends up being the same at the end of the day. Heather says, my goal is more consistent monthly income that grows month over month. I love that. I'm gonna share one thought about that, Heather, and then I'm gonna actually dive into, I love hanging with you guys. I just like could chat about like tangents on this all day long, but I wanna make sure we actually get to some of the framework. But I think to what Heather's saying, I think this is just a helpful reminder for everyone as well. If your goal is to grow your income month over month, I like to remind my clients, and I like to remind myself, the general trajectory, like with business, is not a flat line. Growth tends to be more of a kind of jagged line, and we're looking at the overall trajectory going up, but oftentimes we have a contraction after an expansion after a contraction. And a lot of times when someone does have a big income month, the following month isn't quite as big, or it's about stable. It doesn't, generally speaking, business does not grow like this. And I like to remind people of that, because I think sometimes it can otherwise feel like, oh my gosh, I must be doing something wrong, I'm not growing. And that's why most businesses are looking at quarters instead of month to month. So just a general reminder for everyone here, because I want to make sure everyone is feeling good about what they're doing and not making themselves wrong when they're actually having growth, because I find that happens quite a bit. Okay, let me try to keep myself on track here. This was the last piece I wanted to say in terms of, this is going to come in tie into our clarity piece, but in terms of, I think just one of the biggest things to remember, if you're in my space, you're passion driven, you got in business for a reason. That's because you have a message or a mission or work you really love, you're passion driven, you're heart centered. So if you got into business for that reason, I think it's so easy in the building of the business to almost lose sight of that. And one of the things I find is so important to remember and to keep coming back to is, why did you build your business in the first place? And this doesn't have to be a deep, like Simon Sinek why, but just quite literally, why did you build your business? And not to lose sight of the work you want to do in the first place. Because otherwise what happens is you can create success, you can make money, but there's we're talking about, if you want to be a business owner that's sustainable. I've had a business for 5 years. My business has continued to grow. It has continued to be sustainable. To me, that's so much more important than being a business owner who makes 100K or $1 million for 1 year and then realizes they hate their business and wants to burn it down and doesn't have a business the next year or can't sustain it the next year or doesn't want to stay consistent the next year or needs to find a whole new business model the next year. And that happens more often than you would think. I'm sure you've noticed that if you've been in the online space for a second. I'm sure you've seen business owners have a bunch of success and then you're like, where did they go? And I've absolutely had clients who I adore who have built phenomenal businesses that they then are like, I kind of hate this and I need to figure out how to dismantle this with, and build it basically another business. So I offer this because I know how easy the shiny objects and the wanting to chase more can be. But I think like returning back to what is the work you actually want to do? What is your version of success? Why did you start this business to begin with is such an important question to keep coming back to, that can also really help with the mindset side of things when you do see other people throwing numbers around online that I think could spin you out. I know for me, it's so much easier when I see, someone who is growing faster, so to say. If my brain wants to kick up noise, it's so much easier for me to say, yeah, but that's fine, like good for them. But I'm so clear and locked and loaded on my business model, what I'm doing and my why for my business. And that changes any narrative that wants to come up where I'm like, oh, maybe I should be doing something different. Maybe I should be offering something different. So really think that's an important thing. And this brings us to the clarity piece of the framework. And then I'll jump to to the questions, and throw questions, comments, all of you at me while we're chatting about this, because I want to be as much of an open book and transparent as I can be for all the money stuff, all the business stuff. But something I think is really important, and one of the things I have found has really helped me to create sustainability in my business and has helped me to grow year after year. We added 100K cash last year on top of what was already a 100K plus business. This year we'll add easily 100K cash. I think it'll be far more than that, but it'll easily be more than that. So I've been able to add 100K cash easily every year in my business. One of the reasons for that is I have such clarity on what we're talking about here in terms of my business model, my strategy, and really the work I want to do. So I don't get flip-floppy. I don't build something and then want to burn it down or constantly, change things around or get lost in comparisonitis. It really helps me, and I support my clients to do the same, to get really clear on what is the work you actually want to do, what's the business model you actually want, and what's the strategy that feels really good and in alignment for you. So I find this is, I said I was going to share like a secret. This isn't so much a secret, but it feels important to say. I don't think it's a real secret, but I think it's something people don't talk enough about. Every single business model can make you a millionaire, and every strategy can make you a millionaire. I promise you. If it is an alignment for you and if you work it, every business model can make you a millionaire. Every strategy can make you a millionaire. And what I find so often is people are looking for the model that will make them a millionaire or make them 100K, or they're looking for the strategy that's like guaranteed to do that, instead of getting clear on just knowing like, if like all of these can make you, whether your goal is 100K or 10K months or $1 million, whatever that goal is, if you just know they all can work to reach that goal, then we can like remove the noise of like, how do I find the right model? How do I find, the right, combination of things that's going to allow me to make money? And instead start to get clear on what's the business model that serves you. And the way I think about this I borrow a little bit from, what's his name? Cal Newport. And, I can't think of the book. It's with the flywheel, From Good to Great. where he did a ton of research on companies that went from good to great and grew exponentially. And one of the things they and they did research on this. So this wasn't like fun theory. This was a hypothesis that was tested, and they really compiled the data for this. And something they noticed with the companies that went from good to great and that sustained that, I think it was over 10 years, and this was based on their income, their revenue, was they really looked at and asked themselves, what could I be the best at in the world? What could I be the best at in the world? What would people pay me for? And looking at where that intersects, and what I always think of, like, and what do I love to do? Like, what am I so excited about? And it's kind of where that intersects. That's really where you can start to get clear on what your business model is. Kind of the way I reframe that and the way I think about that with business models, and I'll challenge clients on this a lot, because you all know in the online space, there's someone telling you the way to make money is to do one-on-one. The way to make money is to sell courses. The way to make money is to do a membership. The way to make money is to, I don't know, do a mastermind. And it's like, oh, wait, I'm supposed to do that. And I want to keep reminding you, they all work, but that doesn't mean they're all going to work for you. And so I always like to go back to, and this is the question I always return to, is what can I be the best at the world at? Like, how is the way I can best serve my people to help them get results? And what's the format? What's the model I think will help my people best solve their problems, get the results they want? And then what do I actually like to fucking do? And where does that intersect? And yes, what will people pay you for? And really using that as a true north for my business model, which is why I only offer one-on-one. I know I could scale faster. I know I can make more money. And it really helps me keep the blinders on, because this comes back to what we were talking about at the beginning. It's not just about making money, right? It's about the way you make your money that matters, that creates the sustainability and making money on your terms. And the part I know is so important for me is that making money on my terms piece and that sustainability piece, not just growing as quickly as I possibly could. I know if I really wanted to, we could offer a group program the size of my audience, or a course or something like that, and I could make far more money faster. That's kind of not the point at a certain point. And so coming back to that for all of you, I really want you to think about it. I think one of the questions we put in the form is, what's your clarity for your business model and making money your way? Spend some time thinking about that and really getting honest with yourself, because again, this doesn't mean you can't make more money or can't make more money faster, but I promise it's going to make the journey a whole lot smoother and easier, and it's going to make sustaining it, right? Not just being a one-hit wonder and making that money for 1 year, but sustaining it year after year after year. If we look at good to great, if we look at all of those companies they researched and studied, the companies that went from good to great, a lot of times they didn't, there were companies that were making more money to them when the study started, when they started doing the research, but they blew those companies out of the water for 10 years plus running, because they were asking themselves questions like this. So this isn't just me saying this because oh, that feels good. This is really based on studying large companies, large corporations that have sustained revenue 10 years plus and blown other companies that, quite frankly, some of them that were outperforming those good to great companies that went bankrupt, y'all. So I think just seeing long term, this is what will make you not only on your terms, but make you money long term. Okay, there's comments here. Rick says, on a positive note, I've made more money online than I ever did working for someone else. And as a single dad, I've never had to put my kids in daycare. Spending time with my kids is worth a small fortune. That's the whole point. Don't make me cry on a live stream, Rick, but that's the whole point, right? I think there's so many layers here, but this is exactly what we're talking about when you're looking at, yes, your business model, but what is making money on your terms? What is your version of success? I mean, how beautiful is that? I've made more money than I ever did working for someone else. And as a single dad, I've never had to put my kids in daycare. Spending time with my kid is worth a small fortune. This does not mean that for anyone here who's putting your kids in daycare, that's wrong or bad. That's not the point here. It's just seeing that Rick is really clear on his version of success and making money in a way that really supports those things that are about more than money. This is a whole side tangent, but I really believe when we think about richness, when we think about wealth, what actually leads to a wealthy life, what actually leads to a rich life is more than money in the bank alone. Because again, at a certain point, what are you gonna do? You're just gonna buy more stuff, right? But you can't buy back things like time or spending time with your kids, or trade in that year you spent, doing work you hate. So I think just keeps coming back to seeing exactly what Rick said here. Certain things are worth a small fortune. Being really clear on that and not losing sight of that when I just find sometimes the online space, I see this when clients come to me, can turn into, it's another version of the corporate ladder, trying to grow, as quickly as possible and having those golden handcuffs, and seeing like you get to have both. You get to make money, but you get to make money your own way, and just staying out of what becomes a new corporate ladder, just like the online ladder, and staying out of that race is so, so, so important. At least, you don't have to agree with me. In my book, it's so, so, so important. Okay, so with the clarity piece, really, like, number one lesson I think I've probably learned in 5 years in business is the more money you make at a certain point, it doesn't change things. So really getting like the note I made for myself is here that your peace of mind and your life and how you live your life and the work you do matters way more than a couple extra $1,000. So you have to think at a certain point too, you're paying more team, you're paying more taxes, like your take home isn't going to change that much. It's what Rick said in terms of the business that makes $1 million and has a $900K spend. Like keep that, like, please, if you take nothing else from today's live stream, keep that in mind. It's one of the biggest gifts I've given myself and that I really hope that I impart to my clients. Okay. So that's the big piece on clarity. I think I didn't pull up the workbook, but I think that was the main question I had. Clarity. Spend some time playing with that for yourself. The other thing that feels important with the clarity piece before we jump into mindset, 'cause otherwise I'm going to be on here for 4 hours with y'all. Clarity comes from action. I know I've talked about this in different ways on different live streams before. What I like to remind my clients is that our job as business owners is to act like we're scientists and to make a hypothesis. And scientists make a hypothesis and then go out and test it. And, like it's an educated guess. And then they go out and test it, they collect data, and then they decide if was their hypothesis proven or not proven. With something like a business model, with anything in your business, when we're creating clarity, we make a hypothesis, and then I really want to encourage you to go out there and test it, not to wait and try to figure it out and to journal for the next 6 months around it. One of the lessons I have learned is clarity comes from action in my business, and full transparency. This feels so important to say. My first year of business, I pretty much tested every business model. One of the reasons I'm so clear on my business model and that I know like this is what I'm committed to and love, and it doesn't mean I won't, offer something down the road. I give myself full permission to change my mind. Because I gave myself permission to test things. If anyone's been in my world long enough, some of you have been in a group program of mine. I had a membership when I started my business. It's also why I can help my clients with so many of these different business models. I've run a mastermind. I've tested these. So give yourself permission not to feel like you need to know the answers in advance, to journal around these, to think around these, to use this as a framework to inform, like these are the things I'm looking for. Like this is what my goal is, to build a business that is on my terms, ask myself these questions. What could I be the best at? What serves my clients? How can I best show up for my clients? But not to wait until you have the perfect answer, to go out there and test. Marie says, happy Tuesday, catching some of the live. So happy to have you here. You'll have to let me know reflections, questions. Wait, let's talk mindset. So the next part of my coaching framework is mindset. Y'all, if you know me, I think my mindset is like the whole damn thing. I do think clarity and strategy and action are really important, and I do think that you can't build, grow, and scale a successful, profitable, sustainable business without those components. You still need those, but mindset is just what's going to always be what's steering the ship. I've said this in so many different ways, but they've done research on this. I think it's 95 to 99% of all your conscious action gets it starting in your subconscious mind. Your mindset, your thoughts, the way you're able to manage and navigate your thoughts is pretty much like what informs the clarity, the strategy, and the action, and determines your results. And so if we look at results in business, I know it's your actions are what are going to influence your results. But I think what we forget to do is rewind the tape to what informs that action. And it is the quality of your thoughts, what you're thinking, your landscape of the world, the way you see the world, what you believe, your fears, everything that is going on with your mind that really informs the quality of your action, how much action you take, or don't take that determines those results. And I have just seen this year over year over year in my business, and just seeing the behind the scenes of so many clients, because I do only focus on one-on-one. I get the gift of seeing so many businesses, and I can just tell you, like, 5 clients can be having, working the same strategy, taking the same action. And it's the mindset piece that is the difference maker. And it was the difference, like, abso-freaking-lutely the difference maker for me from, I like to joke that I rode the struggle bus the first year in business. So for any of you who feel like you're on the struggle bus, welcome to entrepreneurialism. It's okay. I've been there too. And I love my business and life and take home great cash. Like, that does not mean you're going to be riding the struggle bus forever. So, like, full transparency, I've been there. And the difference maker for me, it was 1,010% mindset. My strategy has not changed all that much. We'll talk a little bit about strategy and what some of my lessons and what has changed, but it really hasn't changed that much. The thing that has changed is my mindset, and getting better and better at managing the quality of my thoughts, and getting better and better at catching the thoughts that don't serve me and navigating those. That does not mean, this feels very important. If you listen to this week's podcast episode, I talked a lot about trauma brain, and I talked about toxic positivity. We'll drop a link for that later in the notes here. This does not mean, when I say mindset is directly related to those results and the income in your business, that you have to be positive all the time or walk around like a fucking Pollyanna. That's not actually mindset work. That's actually can be very, very toxic and very harmful. And your subconscious brain will just churn up. Remember when I said most of your action gets to start in your subconscious mind? Your subconscious mind is going to know what's actually going on. So when I say mindset, I do not mean being positive all the time, though I'm all for positivity and the power of positivity. And there's a lot of research around that. We're talking about really learning how to manage your mind and the quality of your thoughts, and process and feel emotions that are more challenging, so that you can take action in your business, so that you can serve your clients. I will not go like too much down a rabbit hole here, but mindset is like the number one thing. And this is a lesson. I just learn it again at every single stage. And I share this because I wanted to share my biggest takeaways from making 96K cash, not sales cash, in 90 days. And it's just something I just see again and again and again for me at every level. It's not like at a certain level where I'm like, cool, I'm done with mindset work now. It's like, oh, okay, new opportunity for me to work through some growth edges here. New opportunity for me to learn how to manage my mind. I get faster, like it gets faster and easier, but that work is always there. And that work is always what precedes a next income level jump for me, or a next growth for me. I wanted to give some specifics for you, because I think it's sort of like, okay, mindset, but Kim, that could be so many things. How do I like apply that to my business and making more money? So there are a few specific things I've noticed just in terms of like over the last 5 years. And yes, mindset can encompass a lot. This is not encompassing all of them, but in terms of your capacity to make money, something I have noticed, and something I notice in my clients a lot, is one of the places we have to play with and stretch is your mindset around what it means to receive money and what it means to make money. Let me know if that makes sense to you, if you have a question around what that means. I think it's just an interesting question to ask yourself, and I put a question around this in the playbook, but to ask yourself, like, what is that income goal you have? And then imagine making that money. What comes up for you around making that much money? What comes up for you around receiving that much money? What comes up for you around charging a certain amount or having a certain amount of money? And so often, and I mean, y'all, like, this is like work I have to do as well at every level. I'm like, oh, there's any stretchiness here around receiving more money. Like, isn't this really fascinating? Because I think we all think like, oh, it would just be great to make all the money in the world. Like, yes, bring it on. But most of us as humans have a ceiling, have a threshold where receiving more than that, making more than that kicks up some stuff in our brain. And it usually kicks up, whatever other mindset patterns you have that, are opportunities to work through in other areas of your business and other areas of your life. And I think it can be a really interesting thing to look at and to play around. And something I like to look at is, how can I stretch my capacity to receive? How can I stretch my capacity to have? I'll even work with an affirmation of I'm open to receive. I'm ready to receive more. I'm stretching my capacity to receive. And then I will journal and I will really intentionally look at what are my fears I have? What comes up for me around receiving this amount of money, around receiving this amount of income. I find so like, we're all friends. I'll be as transparent as it's helpful. My current, so I told you last month was a 38K cash month. My current goal is a 40K cash month. And so I find it really interesting when I'm close like that. I'm like, so I wonder what's coming up for me around receiving 40K. Like it's so close there. And it's not like making myself wrong. It's not bad. Like that's fucking phenomenal. I'm thrilled. And it's just an interesting thing where it's like, this is just a new place I get, like a new playground to play in and just mindset wise to stretch into, like what's coming up around that? What do I need to unpack there? What can I look at that's coming up around this next level? And the reason I share that is because I think it's just helpful to hear. Like that stuff still comes up. These are the same questions I asked myself at making a 20K month, at making a 10K month, at my first 5K month, at my first, sale ever. I had to ask myself these same questions. And a lot of times the answers are the same. Sometimes I get a new answer. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That's a new one. But I have to do this work at every level. And I share this because I think we think, oh, well, there must be some secret like mindset work or like some secret affirmation or some secret thing people do so they can make more money. And I just want to like offer like, there's nothing secret I do. I have I can actually show you. This is my really super fancy journal for my mindset work that is every day. I take that out every single day. I still do my mindset work and I'm asking myself these questions. I'm doing the same mindset work and I'm asking myself the same questions I was year 1 in business, year 2 in business, that I'm sure I'll be doing a year from now. So really want to share that transparently. And I think a great question for you to ask yourself is, what's your mindset around making and receiving money? What comes up for you around making that goal? Whatever your income goal is, whatever you want to make next. And what comes up for you around making money your way? I think this is always an interesting one. Sometimes, like just for some examples, because I know there's so many people who are at different things, but do you have a story where it's like, well, but if I can't make money the way I want to? I know for me, we'll be transparent here because that's what we're doing today. One of the things I've had to unpack is being able to scale and make money my way with one-on-one. I for sure had a story to unpack around, I'm just not gonna be able to scale one-on-one. Like I'm just gonna have to be okay not making more money so that I can do what I want to do. And I can't possibly, I definitely had a story, like it's just not going to be possible for me to make, or, to scale to $1 million doing the work I love. And it's like, oh, isn't that an interesting story? Isn't that an interesting thing to unpack? I know for some people, for a lot of my clients, there's a story around like, I could make more, but I'd have to work really hard. And so like the hard work story might come up. Or what comes up around receiving money is like, well, who am I to make that much money? Or am I really good enough? Or people will think, who am I? Or people will think like, you don't deserve it. So I know that can come up quite a bit. I know for some of my clients, like, oh, then I have so much more responsibility. So I think just asking, like really checking in and seeing what comes up around that can be very, very powerful, because then that's the work to do. Like that's the real work. I'm just seeing here. Oh, this was the last piece I want to share on. The reason this is so important, and the reason, mindset work, like just believe me on this, mindset work is the thing. But I think just remembering that if we know that the subconscious mind, 95 to 99% of your action is getting it start there, on the surface, on your conscious mind might say, I want to make this money. I want to have a successful business. I want to make money on my terms. But if the stories of what's going on subconsciously is that's not safe, you're going to have to work really hard. People will think you're an asshole. People will think you're greedy. People will think you're not good enough. Whatever that is, your subconscious mind is going to do everything in its power to protect you and to give you what you actually want, not what you say you want. And so if we're not taking a look at this and doing the work around this, you can bust your behind and do all the right strategy, but find that you're stuck in the same place over and over again until you take a look at what's actually driving and steering the ship. So I really want to invite, and if you're working with a coach, I think this is where having a coach is really powerful, because often it's hard for us to see. I always like to say I can't see the spinach in my own teeth. I need a mirror from someone to tell me if I have spinach in my teeth. It's really hard for us to see sometimes our blind spots. Okay, Y'all are very, very quiet. So let me know if this is landing, if you have questions, thoughts. If you want to know how to apply this, you just throw it at me. If this is helpful, always like to know how this is landing. Okay. Other one here, I put this in, I believe this is in your playbook, but just another great question to journal out on the mindset front. And this is something, again, I've like to talk about takeaways and lessons I've learned. I think there's this idea that at a certain point, you're not going to have a fear anymore and your fears will go away. And if I have learned anything in business, it's that fears are human and they're not freaking going anywhere. And the more you can look at your fears and the more you can make friends with them and the more you can allow yourself to actually work through them, the more you can run at your business and make money. The more you are waiting for those fears to go away, for things to feel comfortable, for, I don't know, the more you like try to argue with your fears, the more you're going to stay stuck. There's, what's the ACT therapy talks a lot about this in terms of, they use a really great analogy, if anyone knows that, it's a form of therapy that's mindfulness based, but they talk a lot about your fears and this idea of it's like trying to wrestle a monster. And if you like try to wrestle with it, like the fear will just always win, versus if you can like make friends with it and hold hands with it, you're just going to get so much further. And so making money, like I said this in so many lives, but like your brain is not wired for success. It's wired for survival and to protect you. And making money, taking up more space online, having a successful business, these are all things that take most people out of their comfort zone at a certain level. And so it's just crazy to think that you're not going to have fears, or you're not going to feel discomfort. You know, I did a podcast on this where I was talking about like one of the biggest things for me, like the biggest gifts for me has been checking in over and over again with, can I make friends with my fears? Can I look at my fears? And then can I just ask myself, is what I want, do I want, you know, whatever this is, 40K months, $1 million business, serving my clients so well, the business I love, working one-on-one, being fully booked for you, you know, whatever that is for you, 10K months, being fully booked, launching out a group, selling out a group program. Do you want that more than you don't want to sit in your discomfort? Because at the end of the day, what I find with a lot of fears, most of our fears are manifesting as discomfort in our body, or, you know, in our mind. They're manifesting as discomfort. And most of us avoid those fears because we don't want to be uncomfortable. So I think it's just a really great question to play with. Like, do I want this more than I don't want to feel uncomfortable? And to use that as a barometer for you in terms of where you take action. It has been one of the biggest gifts for me is to play with that, because I know at every stage it's like, but it like my brain just wants to be comfortable. It's always going to feel better to be comfortable. And I just have to keep checking in with, do I want this more than I don't want to be uncomfortable? Can I take a look at these fears? And I think what's really helpful here too is if you're taking a look at your fears, is seeing if this was an immediate threat and fear, like if this was an immediate threat to your actual safety, you would be in fight flight, or like you would be doing something about it, right? If there was actually a tiger chasing me, I would be fucking running or hiding. So if we're ruminating over something and we're in a fear response, not to minimize, you know, what can be triggered around that at all, but I think it's just helpful to notice if we're taking a look at that and we have the ability to journal around it and think about it, that probably means it's not an actual threat on your safety, that you are actually safe, and that probably means you're uncomfortable. And then playing with, do I want this more than I don't want to be uncomfortable? And if you want to be comfortable more, that's really good information, right? Like that kind of goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning in terms of doing this on your terms, and like, what do you actually want? What's the business model you want? Like, what are the things you even, like the values you have outside of business? So really helpful information there. I put a question for you in the playbook just to journal around what fears do you have around making money on your terms, just so you can actually take a look at them. Because so often what I find is holding me back, my clients back, the reason I still work with my coach is I'm not even aware of some of those fears that are holding me back, because we just don't, like our brain is just really good at, New York honking, just really good at lying to us all the time, and our brain just gets sneakier and sneakier. I find the more mindset work you do, it just gets like sneakier at hiding things. So the more you can consciously take a look at them, the more you're going to be able to make friends with those fears, which is going to allow you to make more money in your business, to show up in bigger ways, to take up more space. Right. Again, you guys are very quiet, so you let me know. Let me know if you have questions. Okay. Let's talk strategy and action, because somehow it's already 45 minutes and I want to try to keep this to 90 minutes. That's my goal here. You know, in the master classes, we go a little longer. But please, if you do have questions, reflections, throw them at me. So happy if you want clarity on anything. Always happy to answer that stuff. So with strategy, there were a few lessons, takeaways I wanted to share with you, and just some questions I wanted to throw at you so you could think about how can you apply this to your business so you really can make money on your terms. I find strategy is one of the places that it's so tied into mindset, because your mindset's going to impact the way you're taking action on strategy and the results you get from your strategy. I also find there's so much noise that can come up around strategy. I think it's probably the number one thing clients are like freaking out about, thinking they don't know enough about, thinking they're getting wrong, worried that they should be doing something else. And so like just the thing I said at the beginning of our live stream, the secret that like no one wants to tell you. I mean, some people, and I think more people are talking about this now, but a lot of marketers don't want to tell you who are selling strategy, is that every strategy works. Emily Hirsch, anyone who I reference her a lot, because I love how she says marketing just works. Strategy just works. Every strategy works. Like honestly, even like the worst strategy in the world, if you believe in it and you believe in what you're selling and you show up for it consistently, will work. I've had clients who have strategies that they've stuck to that you wouldn't necessarily say like this is the strategy like you would pick out of all the strategies, like the top strategy, who are killing it. And so I think it's just helpful to remember that you're not missing anything. There's not like a better strategy out there. But, and this is where it ties into mindset, the belief, the thought that there is a better strategy out there, that there is a secret out there, just like, I don't know, there's a mindset practice that I'm doing behind the doors that I'm not telling you about, or there's a strategy. I feel like my first year in business, I really thought that there was somewhere like a group of like people got together and they shared like these are like the real strategies that will actually make you money. And then I joined a mastermind with multi-six-figure business owners who are making multi-six figures and $1 million plus. I'm like, oh, there's literally not a secret here. There's no hidden strategy. Like you can Google all the strategy. One strategy is not better than another. It's all about finding the strategy that works for you. That's like the biggest secret, is that there isn't a secret when it comes to strategy, and there isn't one. Like they literally all work. Carolyn says consistency is a strategy. LOL. I've learned consistency. We're gonna talk about consistency. Consistency is so a strategy. Mindset is also a strategy, y'all. Like I know we don't classify that as I need chats too. Mindset is a strategy as well, and it definitely impacts your strategy. But yes, consistency is absolutely a strategy. So that feels really, really like, if you like just hang up now, I mean, don't say with me and hang, but take that and think about that and check in with yourself. Are you looking for the secret strategy? Are you telling yourself there must be a better strategy? If your strategy isn't working, are you telling yourself it's because of your strategy? Chances are it's not that your strategy doesn't work. It either means there's an opportunity to see is it the strategy that works for you, or to see if there's an opportunity to refine it, or there's an opportunity with your consistency or the way you're taking action, or there's an opportunity with your mindset around it. Or sometimes it's just, that good old time gap between when we start showing up consistently to when those results come through the door. So that feels like an important thing to preface there. What I like to think about with strategy, so a few things because I do want to give you some actual things to think about, not just that they all work, because that's not useful for everyone outside of getting out of your own way. One thing that I think when I was thinking about our training, I was thinking about what did I want to share with you about strategy, and what do I really believe has contributed to being fully booked and to continuing to make five-figure cash months, and to making 96K cash in 90 days. When I think about my strategy, yes, I'm pretty much doing the same strategy I was from day one, and yes, it is the consistency. But when I think about my actual strategy from day one, it has always been based in service. It has always been based in how can I show up and be of service? How can I build a strategy that's all based on building relationships, connecting with people, and being of service? Like that's kind of the nucleus. And when I think about every strategy that does work, I mean, like, sure, I mean, someone can make an argument with me that like not every strategy works, and I do think there are strategies that are going to be more beneficial. But if we look at business foundation and the strategies, the marketing strategies, the sales strategies that do work, they really are based on building relationships, being of service, making an offer, and selling. Like if I were just like to make it as like simple as humanly possible, and it's making relationships in terms of getting in front of your people, like actively getting out in front of your people to build relationships. And I always think about it in terms of getting like nurturing the relationships in front of you, but also going out of your way to get in front of new people, on the path of new people. I feel like I use this example all the time, but I think about it as the difference between like the coffee shop you already know about all the time and that new coffee shop that like gets one of those sandwich boards and puts it on the sidewalk so that when you walk down the sidewalk, you can't help but know that there is a new coffee shop. I don't know if that makes sense. You have to let me know that makes sense. Hey Dante, nice to have you on. Nice to see you. It's the same for all, like when I'm thinking about like strategy, and when you're thinking about like what strategies do I want to apply in building relationships, like yes, it's building the relationships already in front of you. And then can you think about where are my people? Can I literally put myself on the path? Can I be a sandwich board that is on the sidewalk that blocks someone's path so that I have to put myself in front of new people? And then can I be of service? And then can I sell? And not to oversimplify it, but to oversimplify it, because that is really when we think about what is strategy, like those are the things. And we can make them as complicated as we want to be. But if you like unpack pretty much every business strategy out there, that's what's at the nucleus of it. And then the invitation to you is looking at, okay, so if I know it's all about relationship building, it's all about also making sure I am consciously, actively putting myself on the path in front of those people, and then being of service and then selling. Hey, am I doing that? Do I have a strategy around that? But can I start to think about like, what are the ways that make sense for me? If it goes back to we're making money on your terms, right? I'm like so invested that I'm saying we, but you're making money on your terms. So I would really think about, how do you like to build relationships? What are the ways that feel good to be the sandwich board and get in the path of the people in front of you, right? What are the ways you like to be of service? What are the ways you like to sell? Like start to think about what already feels good for you. What are those things? Because remember, how you build it's how you're gonna sustain it. That clarity piece we were talking about at the beginning, money only amplifies what's already there. So what you wanna think about is, if we know that's kind of the core nucleus, picking and choosing the things that feel good to show up for, because that's gonna be so much easier to be consistent, as Carolyn was talking about. It's gonna be so much easier to take action, and it's gonna be so much easier to want to amplify what's already there if you like the strategy and processes you're picking. But I think not overcomplicating and getting the brain thinking it's like, there must be a secret strategy or there must be something I don't know I'm missing. Instead, thinking about, okay, it's about relationships. It's about putting myself on the path in front of people. It's about being of service, and it's about selling. How can I keep it almost that stupid simple, and then get clear on, of those elements, what are the ways that actually feel good for me? What are the ways that are actually in alignment for me? What are the ways that are actually sustainable for me to fill in those pieces of a strategy? I know that's vague, and that's not like, hey, what you should do is get on Instagram and you should post this many number of days, and you should get these ads, and you should have this funnel, and you should sell in this way. But I think that's the beauty, like that's the blessing and curse. Business is not one size fits all, but that's also like the beautiful thing, because that means business isn't one size fits all. So you don't have to do it the way someone else is doing it. You get to find the way that works for you. Which, yeah, sometimes that can be a little more work on the front side, but the results and the sustainability, so worth it long term. Okay, let me know. Questions, thoughts, reflections. Just seeing here, one of the questions I put in the form for you, and just something to think about, is what strategy serves your version of business success? So the other thing I really like to think about is, when you're picking your strategy, is going back to, what is your version of success? So like, yes, what's the money you want to make, but like, what is that business model you want to do? What's the way you want to show up and serve people? What is Rick was talking about, like wanting to have time at home with his kids. That's a part of his version of success. Thinking about when you're choosing strategy, like that's the element when we're talking about doing things your way, to layer into, if we know these are the pieces of strategy that are important for making money, then getting clear on how can I pick something that serves the bigger picture, like yes, my business, but also the bigger picture, like that life you want, the reason you started your business in the first place. So for example, if you're a busy mom, you might pick a very different strategy and plan than someone like me who is not a busy mom, who loves her business and works, full time, Monday through Friday. And that is, one is not better than the other, but one is better for me, just like one is going to be better for you if you're the busy mom. This also goes down to your connection. I talk a lot about connection style, like how do you like to connect with people? I have a client I was chatting about with this today. We were talking about layering something onto her strategy. And there is something that, I would recommend to some other client that she would hate because of her connection style, because of her version of success, because of what feels right for her. And so we came up with a very different strategy that really is in alignment for her connection style, the way she likes to show up, the way she likes to serve, what fits her overall version of success. And so permission around this, but also a reminder, it's not just permission around this. This isn't just like kind of like a nice to have and a feel good thing. This is actually kind of the thing, because if it feels good and if it feels in alignment, you're going to show up, be consistent, and be able to make money from it. You're going to want to sustain it and make money more than, just being a one-hit wonder, make money year after year. But if we go back to that mindset piece too, if you actually like something and it's in alignment, your brain is not going to get in the way and try to sabotage your strategy. The reason, 5 people can do the same strategy and 5 people can get different results, a lot of it has to go back to, if it's out of alignment, your brain is just, or there's like the fears and stuff coming up on the other side. But sometimes if that strategy is out of alignment, your brain is just going to want to self-sabotage all the time and not have you show up. Okay. Carolyn says, I love how you're always framing the my way of doing. The challenge I found in this journey is trusting myself enough to evolve. I am so happy that resonates with you, and I invite everyone to think about what is your way. Plus, it just feels really good if you're a little bratty like me, bratty in the best way possible, and a creative and an entrepreneur, and you're a little bit of a rebel. It feels really good to say, I did things my way, especially when people have told you that won't work. Not that that's about, and maybe that's not the best mindset in the world, but come on, y'all, it feels a little good to be like, I broke the rules, I did things my way, lots of people said that this wouldn't work, and I got to do things and it does. So side tangent there, and I think what you said, Carolyn, hits the nail on the head. I think one of the biggest challenges for everyone, and this goes back to the mindset piece that really ties into the strategy piece, is that self-trust element, and I think it's just such a beautiful gift to give yourself that awareness. And I think it's also just an opportunity at every level to keep checking in with, how can I strengthen my self-trust? If I did trust myself, what would I be doing here? How would I be showing up? And then to look for opportunities again to strengthen that self-trust, which I think is where consistency, we'll talk about the action piece, but I think that action consistency piece, and sometimes the way you show up in your business can be a really powerful way where it's like a lot of times we get confidence, on the other side of doing the scary thing or taking action. I think it's the same thing with self-trust. Like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Sometimes we need the self-trust first to take action. Sometimes taking action and being consistent also builds out self-trust because we keep doing what we say we want to do. So I appreciate you for saying that, Carolyn. I think it's just a helpful thing for everyone to remember. I think self-trust is one of the biggest, things in business for mindset. Okay. Where was I? I'm trying to, I'm not used to having all these notes still. I'm trying to follow them so I actually give you what I promised. Okay, so the other thing with the strategy, a couple things here I want to talk about with strategy. So when I was looking at the 96K cash in 90 days. I was looking at, okay, so my strategy really hasn't changed that much, y'all. It really is pretty much the same, but there are some things that have changed, and there are some things in terms of adjustments I've made to strategy that I think have really served me in my business, and I wanted to share that, and I put some questions in the playbook around that. So one thing I'm always asking myself and looking at is, how can I deepen into my strategy? If you're a client of mine, I talk a lot about going deep, not wide. I think when we go wide with our focus, when we go wide with our strategy, when we go wide with our business offers, when we go wide with our call to actions, like the wider you get, generally the more you water things down. And as a small business, which I know all of you are if you're here, we generally don't have the resources and support to go wide and to do that well and to actually get returns on going wide, which is very different than a huge corporation that has a lot of resources, so they can kind of go wide and have the resource team to make those all work. And I would even argue, if you look at great corporations that are sustaining long term, they're still going deeper, not wide, but another conversation there. But especially as a small business owner, I think with strategy, it's really helpful to keep thinking about, I don't have multiple departments that can run all of these different things. How can I go deeper with my strategy instead of wide? So that's a question I'm always asking myself. And before I add on anything new, I'm always looking at, is there an opportunity to go deeper with what I'm already doing before I add on something new? I'm really mindful to add on new strategies. And I would say we add on like maybe one thing a year. But like it's still the same strategy type stuff, but I'm thinking this year we added on the podcast. Like I had the podcast idea last year. Like we waited till this year very intentionally because we go deep, not wide. So that's something I'm always thinking about. I'm also always looking at how do I want to phrase this? Looking at ways to, if I'm going deeper, to refine and to improve, but not to perfect and to not get confused with that difference. So I think there are absolutely times when there are opportunities. If you're going deeper within your strategy, there are times like to refine your strategy. There are ways to improve it so it's working more for you. And I think there's a point of diminishing returns, and there's a way that we confuse refining for perfectionism and for avoiding moving forward. And it's really easy, I think, as you grow, because you will just have a bigger body of work, you'll have more stuff out there, to want to go back and claim you're refining something, but really what it is a big fucking distraction and a time suck that will actually keep you from making more money in your business and doing things your way, and everything we're talking about here. And I think just really understanding that difference. So I'll use this as an example. I get pitched literally multiple times a week for people who have services they could offer me. And one of the pitches I get regularly is, I will write an email funnel for you, or I signed up for your email funnel, and I found I recorded this Loom, and here are the problems with your email funnel. Now, I know my email funnels, I haven't touched them probably in 3 years. Now everyone's gonna go sign up for them. There are definitely opportunities there for me to refine those. And when there is time in my business and that makes sense, we might go back and refine those, but we're not using those a ton. And I'm very clear on where the money in my business comes from. That's not where the majority of the business and the sales and the cash in my business comes from. That's also not the majority of where we're sending traffic to, or where I'm connecting with people in terms of what we were talking about, putting myself on the sidewalk in front of people and building those relationships. It's just not a big part of my strategy. And it would be really easy to say, I'm refining my strategy, I'm going deeper, not wider. Let me go either invest in this, or let me go spend the next 6 months perfecting these funnels, and then be really frustrated when it doesn't make that big of a difference in my income, and be confused as to why, and think, this strategy doesn't work, I did something wrong. But the reason that wouldn't make that big of a difference is that's just not where most of my business is coming from. It's just not something we're using or leveraging a lot. So I think just being mindful, that would be yes, that would be refining, but it wouldn't be refining in a way that makes strategic sense. Versus I could look at something that, I don't know what a good example that would be, what we might want to refine, but I think there are opportunities to look at, are the things we're using regularly in business, how can I refine? So the Facebook group, I spend a lot of attention, that's a good example. The Facebook group is a big part of how I get in front of people, how I nurture you, how I build a relationship with you, how I'm letting you know about my work, how I'm also selling. So there are I have gone deeper here, not wider. I didn't then get on TikTok and Clubhouse and do a bunch of other stuff. I've always been on Instagram first, then Facebook, that's kind of it. But I've gone deeper within that. And so we've looked at ways to refine. I'm often looking what can we what can we add to the group? How can we improve, the way the group is engaging? How can we improve the value, the service we're bringing to the group? How can we improve, the posts we're putting out? So that's a way of like deepening and refining, but refining something that makes sense to refine instead of getting lost in the weeds of perfecting shit that doesn't really matter and calling that refining. So hopefully that makes sense for you, because that feels really important, because that's been, I think, something that's really served me in my business and helped me to not get like, to be able to quite honestly take home more profit margin as well, because at a certain, because I do all one-on-one and because I'm so fully booked, and I have been for a while, I don't have a lot of extra hours to dedicate to things outside of creating content for you all, quite honestly. And so anything like that is also going to be, at a certain point, you're looking at team spend, you're looking at how is this going to affect my profit margin? So it needs to make sense on the return side. Anyway, that's a whole side tangent, but I think y'all get what I'm saying. Let me know if you have questions. If not, the other piece with strategy, when I was thinking about when I think about, 96K cash my way in 90 days, when it comes to strategy, and I think about like what's helped that, aside from everything else we've been talking about, from the mindset part and like the clarity and like being so locked in on my business model. Another question I always ask myself when it comes to strategy, and I think I've been asking myself this from day one in business, and we talked about this a little bit, but is the service piece. And just asking myself, quite honestly, how can I serve more? If I want to make more money, how can I go out and serve way more than I'm asking for? How can I go out and put way more value into the world than the money I want to make? And this is not coming from a place of burning out. This is not coming from a place of like, I'm not doing enough, or like, how can I go do, but really thinking from a place of, I believe when I show up and serve, I make money. I believe my business model is all about service. And so I am always looking at, like, from a strategy perspective, if I want to scale my business and I want to make more money, how can I show up and serve more? And it just helps me get the answer for what my strategy needs. Also, if you believe in manifesting, if you believe in energy, I also just really believe the energy of showing up and serving and giving value. This might be a little too woo for some of you, but I fully believe when I show up and serve, the universe meets me halfway and sends me clients and money from expected and unexpected sources. If you're a client of mine, I probably have shared that affirmation with you. I like genuinely believe that, and I've just seen that to be true so feel free to borrow this belief if it does feel good to you. If not, and it's too woo, that's cool also. We can go on either side of the woo fence, but I've just seen over and over again, when I show up and serve my face off, or coach my face off is sometimes what I'll say to clients, money comes into my business. Sometimes it comes from the thing I'm doing, sometimes it comes from an unexpected place, but I really believe being in that action of service generates money. Which also creates a lot of safety, like going back to the mindset for me, because I just know, cool. So if I'm stuck with strategy, it's easy. Like, I just go back to, how can I be of more service? The reason I'm sharing this is because then I look at, like, we're talking about going deeper, not wider. And then if I am going to layer something on or add something on in my business, it's coming from this place of not, oh, so-and-so said this strategy would really work. So-and-so said do this thing on Instagram. So-and-so said join Clubhouse. So-and-so said do this thing in your Facebook group. And not to say any of those things are not valid or that you should or shouldn't do them. But that's really looking at the wrong information, asking the wrong question if we're looking at strategy, instead of how can I show up and serve more? If I'm going to do something else in my strategy, helps me understand if I should do whatever, so-and-so is saying is working really well. It also helps me put the earmuffs on when so-and-so is saying this works really well, to know, oh, but that doesn't fit the way I want to show up and serve. And I'm going to give a little more bit of a tangible example. When I ask myself this question, that's what, many of you know, last year I created a free 6-week sales course that I gave away that I think, quite honestly, is as valuable as many high-priced sales courses. I'm still giving it away for free. I'll make sure we drop a link for that if you haven't signed up for that. That is absolutely a strategy. I'm not saying you need to go, do not hear this as now you need to go create a free 6-week course and give that out. But that that free course, I made, I don't know, 25K cash in like 10 days from a free course. And it's continued to bring me clients and, to make me money in my business. But that strategy did not come from like, oh, so-and-so said I should go make a free course. I don't know anyone, quite honestly, who's doing that. It came from me asking myself, how can I serve more? How can I serve more? How can I serve more? What can I do to serve more? How can I serve my people more? What do they need? That gave me that answer. It's the same with the podcast. That's where the podcast came from. And if I look at, 96K in 90 days, and we like kind of unwind like my takeaway, my lesson, when I look at the strategy side of things, where it's like, what was I doing that helped me make 96K cash in 90 days? Oh, I was showing up and serving more. I always like to say like your results today are because of actions and your mindset and what you were doing. Usually it's 90 days before. Well, 90 days before now, I had finished putting out a free course and I had launched a podcast, which was being of more service. So I share that with you. This is not a like, you now need to go do more, but I think it feels like a very heart-centered way to think about strategy, but I also think it's a really strategic way to think about strategy. And I want to offer it gets to be both. I think sometimes we think we're either strategic or we're nice and heart-centered. And I think when you're coming from a place of service, it gets to be both. And sometimes that's being the most strategic, and it'll give you often the most innovative and strategic ideas that directly tie into making money, but that also help you to go deeper and out wider. I hope that makes sense. I'd say that's probably, it's something I've always been doing, but it's something I identified for myself that I was doing that I hope I can share with you, because it's been really valuable for me. And I see the same thing. I see the same thing with my clients, and the clients of mine my clients are all incredible. My clients are all heart-centered. They're all service-based. So, this could be true for any of them, but I see when they lean into, how can I serve more? And yes, serve and then sell. We're not forgetting the selling part, like sell. You know, if you've been hanging out with me. That's why I have created a free course called Sell Out Without Feeling Like a Sellout. We want to not forget the selling piece at the end of the strategy. But when I look at my clients who lean into, how can I show up and serve more? How can I show up and give more value and then sell? It's really fascinating how their businesses blow up, even if they're like kind of doing the same thing, because it goes back to, I think there's so much of a mindset shift around that as well. That's very different than, how do I find the right strategy to make me money? Or how do I figure out what so-and-so is doing to make me more money? Or so-and-so is doing that must work for me. Let me try that too. It's such a different way to come at your strategy, which taps you into that alignment, but mindset-wise too, right? It's going back to your version of success, making money your way, being heart-centered, being of service. And if you believe in the woo, I'm just telling you, you put it out, it comes back. Really, really believe that. So play with that, because I think you'll find, even if you're doing the same actions, I always like to say the actions can look the same, but the mindset behind it changes the results, right? So even if your actions are exactly the same, if you notice, if you're coming at it from a place of, I want to serve more, I think you'll notice it changes the way in which you take those actions and the results you get. Okay, to see if there was anything else, because I want to talk about the action piece a bit before we end. The one note, and I think I touched on this already, but that I wanted, because I put a question in the playbook in terms of what opportunities you have, if any, to refine your strategy. And the note, I just want to remind everyone here, because I won't be there one-on-one coaching you unless you are one of my clients or you hire me for coaching. It's just to be really mindful again, that this does not mean to overwork something or to like go down the rabbit hole of fixing all the things that don't need to be fixed. I think a lot of businesses spend a lot of time and energy and resources on fixing problems that don't exist or that don't need to be fixed. So just be mindful there with that question. Okay, action is the last piece when we're talking about clarity, strategy, mindset, and action. And again, you guys are very quiet, so if you do have questions, don't be shy. Even if it's like feels a little off topic, that's what I'm here for. So please don't be shy at all. And also, okay, if you don't have questions, but I want to make sure you know I'm so available for those. With the action piece of things, this is like, your action is that direct conduit to your results. And I say that because I am so mindset heavy, and I do believe in the woo, and I do believe, your thoughts create your reality, and thoughts create things, and the quality of your thoughts and the way you manage your mind is directly linked to the money you make. But I think we forget sometimes, especially in our personal development space, that it is those thoughts, but it's those thoughts tied to action, and it's those thoughts and how they have you show up in action. And I think sometimes our personal development space almost wants to like just get into the manifesting energy, vibey space of it and forgets about that really important part of action. Or the pendulum swings and it's like you have to just hustle, take all the action in the world and burn out. And so I just want to offer that like neither extreme, I have found in my personal experience and just working with so many clients, I found neither extreme really serves you in making money, sustainable money on your terms. I think you can just, I don't know, like I think people have had experiences where they do manifest just on thoughts alone, or you can hustle and grind it out. But if we're talking about having a profitable, sustainable business and building it on your terms, I find it really is that middle ground and finding the kind of action that serves you. And really, this goes back to like on your terms and getting clear on your version of success and getting clear on things like, how many hours do you want to work in your business? You know, what is, I call it a healthy hustle. What is that healthy hustle that feels good for you? But remembering, some of my clients love me for this. Some of them probably like love, hate me for this, like where they're like, ugh, I hate you for saying that, but I love you for telling me that. I think just the thing that feels my mindset, my personal opinion around this is, I think sometimes we forget in the online space that this is still a job. If you're running a business, it's still a job. And I find it fascinating. I know I've shared this before, but I find it fascinating that we will not want to take action in our business that we claim we love, that we claim is something we're passionate about, that we claim is like our like mission. And yet we'll go and show up for a shitty pay the bills job that you claim you hate and you want to leave. And it's like something doesn't add up there. And I think we just need to find like a little bit of that work ethic we would have for building someone else's business, for a job, and bring that into business. And remember, it is still a business, it is still a job. And that's not a bad thing. Like that's not a bad thing at all. That's a beautiful thing, right? That's why we're all here. But just not making that a bad thing and just getting clear on like, and so that means it's going to require action from you, and to not demonize that as like, and now I'm a bad business owner because I'm working more than, I don't know, a couple hours a week, or whatever the noise that can come up around that. But then also going back to making money on your terms, getting clear on what are your terms, because I think there's just so many different versions of success and versions of what action can look like. It's really easy to base what your healthy hustle is on someone else's healthy hustle. And I'll use myself as an example. My healthy hustle, what feels really in alignment for me to show up for my business, is really different than what most of my clients, how most of my clients are showing up in their business. And it would be really screwy if I was expecting or coaching them to take the same kind of action I do or to show up the way I do. Because very different versions of success, very different versions of healthy hustle. Also, I have a team of 5 helping me, so my action is not done solely. I think that's just important to remember. It's going to look different for everyone. It's also going to look different at different stages in your business, at different seasons in your life, right? If you're a mom or dad and you've just had a kid, or you're going through something health-wise versus you're single at home and have all the time in the world, like there's just going to be different circumstances that come up around that. So I think just a helpful thing to check in with, what is my version of healthy hustle? How many hours do I want to work a week? What does feel good for me? And getting clear on that, but then also getting clear on, okay, once I'm clear on this, remembering that action is the link to those results in your business, and getting, I'm gonna lose my battery. I might have to plug us in. And getting clear on what you're committed to taking action on. So I think I'm just gonna plug this in. Thanks for, how do I do this? Let's see if this will plug into the wall. Don't mind me, y'all. I just don't wanna have my battery die on you, because this is a longer one. Okay, am I back? I think I'm back. You have to let me know if the light went weird, but I think, there we go, the flash is back. Okay, I am back. So I think just checking in with that for yourself, because today's live stream is all about making money on your terms. And so I don't want to exclude the importance of action, but I do want to include the importance of getting clear on what kind of action serves your business, but not at that place where it's like, well, just what feels good all the time. Because the other thing, it's kind of going back to what we're talking about with mindset, is remembering sometimes the reason you don't want to take action isn't because it's a burnout action, or it's a unhealthy hustle action, or it's because you can't do it, or because it's not tied into your version of success. Oftentimes I find for my clients, when they don't want to take action, assuming it's in alignment and everything we're talking about here, it's because there's some sort of discomfort getting kicked up. It's really more a mindset thing, right? If you're not showing up consistently, if you're wanting to resist taking action, generally speaking, I find that sometimes it's a clarity piece and a misalignment, like not liking your business model, not wanting to do the work you're doing. And a lot of times there's a mindset piece coming up. And I think just noticing that, so you're not making that mean the action you're taking is wrong, or the amount of action you're taking is wrong, or the number of hours you're working is wrong, or whatever noise can come up there, so that you're solving the right thing, which is probably there's more likely some sort of resistance, some sort of fear, some sort of, something going on mindset wise that is causing friction to taking action consistently, or to taking the action you want to take. And I mean, that would be true too. If you're working far more than feels healthy, generally speaking, there's something mindset wise coming up, said from a, recovering overworker. I know if I'm overworking, that has more to do with my mindset than my action or my action plan. Marie says, I agree with the action leads to results. What about when, example, due to technology, your product is simply going away, phasing out? Do you mean with the action phase, or do you mean something? Do you mind giving me a little more clarity? Because I want to make sure I'm answering your question correctly. But overall, if something of yours is phasing out, if you're still running your business and you're going to have a different offer coming in, I would say the action piece still applies. Your action will probably just look a little bit different because you have a different offer. If it's that your offer or your business is phasing out and you're moving on to something else, I think you still can apply the action piece to that new business or to that new business model. It might look a little different, but I would say the action piece is still going to be important. You might just apply it to selling or marketing something different. But I'm not sure if I completely understand the question. No, more a market for the product. Do you have a specific question around that for me? Because then I could answer that a little more clearly. I want to make sure I'm not just throwing out random words. But I would say if you're phasing, I'll just generally what comes up for me around that, Marie, is if you have a product and you're phasing that out and there's no more market for that product, I would just probably want to go back to getting clear on, do you have another product that you're going to offer? Are you changing your business completely? There probably would be questions I'd want to ask from a strategy perspective in terms of the market itself. Like, is there an opportunity? Like, is there really not a market for the product, or is there an opportunity to market the product itself differently so the market that's there understands it? And if not, looking then at how are you pivoting? How are you adapting? Are you changing your business model? So I think then that might be more, there might be some bigger questions that come up there. I hope that makes sense. I hope I'm answering what you're asking. Okay, with the action piece. So what I wanted to share here, I had notes around the action. So what I think of with action overall, when I'm looking at action in business and the action that drives those results and making that money in your business, I think we've got consistent action. And then I think we've also got looking at, and these are just when I'm looking at like 96K in 90 days, and I'm looking like actually like what sort of action drove those results that you can take, again, for whatever your income goal is, but that you can take to apply as well. Absolutely. I always say like my business was built on consistent action. So, I mean, I'm consistent AF. I think I've been showing up every day, sharing, like talking about the service piece, sharing value for 5 years. So that is the consistent action piece. But then when I zoom back, I look at, especially at a certain level in business, looking at delegating, deleting, and back burner. And I'll explain what that means when I'm thinking about action. So what I think about is when this kind of goes back to the strategy piece and you're looking at action, starting to get clear on, okay, what does consistent mean for you? Consistent for you might be very different than what consistent means for me. What's your consistency schedule, and committing to that and getting clear on action am I committed to, which is going to go back to like that strategy piece that you got clear on. But then also looking at a certain phase, like with all the other stuff that comes up on your plate, knowing that at a certain stage, if you want to grow, you can't say yes to everything. You can't do everything, right? We talked about with strategy, deepening instead of widening. And I love the Warren Buffett quote, which is, what's the difference between successful people and really successful people? Really successful people just say no to more things. At a certain point, like even with action, if we're looking at, I want to go deeper, not wider, I want to strategically layer on things that are of more service so that I can, deepen that relationship with my people. We also have to start looking at what do I need to delete, delegate, or back burner in terms of action so that I have the space and capacity to take action on the things and go deep with them to actually get those results. What does not get results, and I'm like, mindful not to say this will not get you results, but really and truly what I find gets diminishing results is like taking a little action over here, taking a little action over here, taking a little action over here, stopping and starting. Like that tends to get zero results or to get very diminishing results. What does get results is consistent, that consistent deep action, which means starting to take a look at things. And this is something I'm always doing audits in my business, whether it's with my coach or with my team or with myself, looking at what opportunities do I have to delete? What actions can I delete? Sometimes these are, things that I could streamline my action plan with. Sometimes it's things outside of my business, but I'm always looking at like, what can I delete? What can I say no to essentially? What do I need to back burner? I have so many things on the back burner that will probably always just be sitting there simmering. And I talk with clients about this a lot. This also goes back to things like offers and strategy, but this is also what am I going to take action on? And this is having a back burner on your stove is what allows you to take action and cook the things on the front of the stove that you have the high heat on, right? The high heat that you're allowing yourself to go deep on, that stew you're making in your business. We have to back burner often many things. I really like to be intentional with that because what I find from a mindset perspective is if you don't intentionally delete or back burner something, your brain has that open tab thinking it should still be taking action on it. And that's when you have that like never ending to-do list. Anyone ever have those where it's like the list just goes like, these are all the things I could do. And you're always like, these are all the things, these are all the things. And you're like always moving them over. But that creates a lot of noise in the brain, a lot of open tabs in the brain, a lot of distraction. That's also when I find people are like, well, today I did this random ass task. It's like, why did you take action on that? Oh, but it was on my to-do list. It's something I've been thinking about. If you can take a look at some of those things and get clear on, I just need to delete this and never do it, or at least not right now, or back burner it. Give yourself, I have a Google document that, I also have a notebook, but I don't use a notebook anymore. I used to have a notebook for this. I now just have a Google document of just back burner things, action steps, tasks, strategies, ideas, stuff that I will get to maybe, but right now it's really important that they're not on my like consistent action plan. And they just get back burnered, and you can call it a back burner list. I find it's really really important for your mental bandwidth, which as you're growing and as you're making money, like it's not just the quality of your thoughts mindset wise, but it's the quality of your thoughts for ideating and innovation and for serving your clients and for doing your work. I protect my thoughts and my space like it is my job. I say no to so many things because it is my job to not just manage like my mind, like mindset wise, but to like be able to show up and create content for all of you, to be able to build relationships, to be able to serve my clients, to be able to support them. And so if I have a never ending to-do list and an action plan that doesn't serve not just my version of success, but that doesn't serve my brain space, it's going to be really hard for me then to show up, to be able to not just book clients, but to be able to serve them. Part of the reason my business is able to scale the way it does is because I'm serving my client. I have a revenue share model, right? I'm serving clients well, so I'm getting a percentage of what they make, but I also have a ton of clients who are repeat clients. I can't have that happen. I can't serve my clients that well if my brain is just like frazzled because I'm trying to run at a ton of different things. So back burner is it's like just the nicest thing for me because I'm a creative. I'm sure you are too. I don't want to kill ideas. I don't want to feel like I'm not allowed to play and do things. I want to park those ideas somewhere. I want to know that they have space to live. The podcast was a back burner idea. For example, the podcast was a back burner idea. The podcast I didn't have a topic for a while, but I had a podcast my first year in business, and it was a way I wanted to deepen being of service. And I backburnered that for, I don't know, a good year or so until the idea for the topic came through, which I had to create space for, speaking of space, and until I had the time to be able, and the team support, quite honestly, to be able to dedicate where that was something I could be consistent with. So look at, what do I need to back burner? What do I need to delete? And all of this is in service of, so that I can get clear on the few things that I'm going to take action on that I can be consistent with. And what I would say is being really mindful not to take something off the back burner and add it to that consistent action list plan until that is just working so easily for you, where it's like, this is just a routine and easy. I wouldn't add anything else onto it until then, or until you're looking at the other thing I like to ask myself, which is, what can I delegate? And I'd say one of the biggest lessons and takeaways from 96K Cash My Way in 90 days is just seeing the importance of delegating and the importance of support, and knowing that I've had different levels of support at every level of business. I've always worked with a coach, so that's been one level of support. And then I added on teams slowly, and I've been growing my team for the last few years, and just seeing how at a certain level, like, it doesn't matter. It's not like a willpower thing. It's not like a, if you just hustle harder thing. At a certain point, like, it costs your business. I know we talked about this, I think maybe last week or the week before, but it costs your business money at a certain point if you're not delegating certain tasks, but it also delegates your brain space. And what we were talking about at the beginning with the mindset piece in terms of, you know, are you open to receive money? Are you like, what is your capacity to receive? I find part of what allows me to receive and my capacity to receive, yes, it's my ability to show up and serve, but I also have to literally create mental space and bandwidth to receive, which means I can't just cram my brain and I can't just cram my schedule with all of these to-do items. Like, that's when we get into the like hustle harder, like just work harder and you'll make more money mentality that can, I think, be more harmful than good. And so just looking at, okay, what do I delete? What do I back burner? And then at a certain point, and it's going to be different for everyone, different for everyone's business model, where you're at in business, what your, you know, very different variables, but then starting to look at, what do I need to delegate? And seeing that is a form of action. You're just paying for it, right? That is action in my business. And I say that because I think sometimes we think action always has to mean doing and pushing and working hard. And I think that's when that can feel really crunchy. You can pay for consistency. And at a certain point, you have to pay for consistency, but you can also pay for action. And at a certain point, like, just seeing like that is still an action plan. Those are still action steps. Those are still money generating activities and actions. I'm just now paying someone else to support me with those because I can't hold it all up my own if I also want to serve clients well, be of service, show up and build relationships, everything we were talking about on the strategy side, and have the brain space and mental bandwidth for that and be open to receive. So I think that's been probably one of the biggest lessons for me, is seeing, because I've always known mindset is a thing. Like, I've always known, like, to grow to the next level, to make more money, like, mindset is like I think it's like the biggest component. That's why I continue to invest in that mindset support and coaching around that, because I know the degree at which I'm able to make money in my business is directly correlated with the degree to which I'm able to manage my thoughts and manage my mind and show up in my business neutrally and, you know, be able to serve clients. And then the other thing, I just know the degree of which I'm able to delegate and ask for support and receive support, there's that receiving word again, is also directly correlated with the amount of money I'm making in my business. And I share that. I know everyone here is going to be at different places in your business. You might not be ready to hire on support or to delegate yet. And that doesn't mean you can't make money. That doesn't make you wrong. That is not what, remember, this is not one size fits all. This is take from today what resonates. If you take one idea from today, if one idea lands with you and you do something with it, I will have done my job. I don't expect all of these all to land, you know, for everyone here, because you all have different businesses, you're in different places. So don't feel like you need to now go apply all of these things. But at a certain place, for those of you who are, that has been like one of my biggest learning curves, is just seeing, if I want to make more money and if I want to scale, and yes, I can still have a great profit margin, I have to leverage my time. There's only one of me. Time is my most valuable resource. I have to leverage my time, and I have to be really smart with leveraging my time that action side. And that goes back to the mindset component. And I've got to work my mindset around being open to receive that support and delegating out. And so going back to the action plan and going back to the strategy plan, then it looks like if I know what I want to be consistent with, and I know what my consistency schedule looks like and plan, and I know how I want to show up and be of service, looking at, okay, what am I deleting? What am I backburnering? And then what do I need to delegate? Again, this will not apply to everyone, but what do I need to delegate? And that has been one of the biggest levers I would say I've pushed in the last year that's allowed me to grow. I literally could not make the money I did with a one-on-one coaching model if I was not delegating. And I say that as well because I think I have one client, she's like, I actually don't know how you make the money you do with one-on-one. This is part of how, like, my team, I love you. And they know that, I tell them regularly. But like, I literally could not make the money I do without team support. I also share that because I want everyone to hear that. So you're not like, well, wait, I'm doing one-on-one coaching. Why is this why can't I, have more clients or whatever that is? I have 5 people supporting me behind the scenes, and I'm always looking at what's something else I can delegate. And really seeing that as like, I think that's one of the best questions I can be asking myself, and looking at like, how can I just keep investing in support? Because I know the more I invest in support, the more I buy back my time, the more I buy back my time and my brain space, the more I can show up and serve my clients. The more I show up and serve, the more I make money in my business. And so it kind of all goes together there. Okay, Marie says, delegate, delete, back burner, love it. Yes, so glad that landed with you. Hopefully that last piece there makes sense for all of you. I also hope it normalizes for all of you, because I always want to be as transparent as possible as what's going on behind the scenes. I think that was everything with the clarity, mindset, strategy, and action I wanted to share with you. I did put those questions for you in the playbook. So what I would invite you to do is, like, we talked about the concepts around those questions. I wanted to workshop those with you a little bit and just explain my thought process behind some of those, and just the way some of the lessons I've learned that I've applied them in my business. And then I really want to invite you to spend some time, and you can look at, maybe, if we're looking at clarity, mindset, strategy, and action, you don't need to work on all 4 right now. Those are the 4 components I think are important. Take a look at which lever for you is going to be the most important for you to press. And what I would say is, whichever one feels like the one you want to do is probably not the lever you need to press. It's probably the one you don't want to look at. So if you're like, I want to look at mindset, my guess is you're probably good with mindset. And it's like whichever one you're resisting, which is like, ugh, why did Kim talk about action? Or why was Kim talking about clarity? That's the one I want to avoid. That's the one I would invite you to lean into and go play with those questions around, because that's usually the indication of the place we need to play. So don't just pick the one that feels good, pick the one you actually need, but take a look at which one. You don't have to do them all at one time, and play with those and ask yourself those questions, so you can look at what are some of those shifts, what are some of those pieces of awareness you can make, and how can you apply some of the things we chatted about today and some of those questions and that framework to your business, so you can get clear on what is your version of business success, what is the money you want to make, but what's the way you want to make that money, so that you can really intentionally show up in your business to make money on your terms. Because again, remember, the way you make your money really does matter. Really, really, really believe the money is not created equal. Guarantee you, if you make your money in a way that you love the work you do, but it feels in integrity and that you feel like you're in alignment, that's going to feel so different, and you're going to sustain it so much differently than if you feel like you basically recreated your job that you don't like, or a job that you wanted to leave, or something that you don't like. And it's also going to change. I really believe it also changes what you end up wanting to do with your money, and the way your money grows, and just your longevity in business. I know if you're here, you're passion driven, you care about your work, you want to be in business for more than 0.5 seconds or more than 6 months, you're here for the long term. I want all of us to be having conversations 10 years from now about business, not just for 6 months and then we're done. So really want to invite you to think about those things, and to keep giving yourself that gift that you do get to build something you love. You do get to make money your way. Don't listen to the BS other people tell you. I've had people tell me at every stage of business that what I want to do is not possible, that you can't scale one-on-one, that you can't make, I've had people tell me you can't sell mindset and make great money from mindset. I've literally, like, everything I wanted to do in business, I have been told by someone or multiple people, that's not possible. That's not the way you do it. And so I just want you to hear, like, don't listen to that BS. You do have to get clear on and do the mindset work around it to believe that you can do it your way. I have absolutely had to do a metric fuck ton of mindset around doing things my way and believing in that and, you know, staying committed to that. And you have to find, you know, the strategy and take the action and all of that, but really give yourself that gift and allow yourself to put those blinders on. I promise you, when you get that clarity and you believe that, like, you know, this is my version of success, this is the way I want to make money, it really also just helps turn the dial of comparison and the dial of the noise online down that I was attempting to speak at the beginning. Because I know, I hear it from clients all day, how much noise there is and how easy it is to get wrapped up in that and then make yourself wrong or think there's a better way. When you know your version of success, when you're like, no, but like, this is what, like, this feels good, this is what I want, it's just so much easier to be like, I see that, that is amazing. That is amazing for that person, but that's cool because I know what I'm doing and this feels really good and I wouldn't change this for the world. That is my hope for all of you. And I hope you will take something from today's training, apply it to your business. Yes, make more money doing what you love, but really also tap into doing it on your terms. And if you want support around this, I always want to hop off and forget to mention this, but if you do want support around the clarity, mindset, strategy, and action in your business, and you want support building, growing, and scaling a profitable, sustainable business that you love on your terms, I'm really good at what I do. That is what I support my clients with all day, every day. As you have heard me say, I only focus on one-on-one work. I'm an excellent coach. I really think I'm one of the few coaches at my level that only focus on one-on-one, and one of the few coaches who have been in business as long as I have, who see the behind the scenes of so many businesses. So you don't just get my experience, you get my experience from seeing so many businesses all day, every day that is still doing one-on-one. So if you want support around that, I have very limited availability. Very grateful for my clients. Most of them do stay with me and renew and work for me with years. So we generally have a spot open up here and there. I will drop a call for a discovery call. Book a discovery call. They're very low pressure. It's so important to me. I work with people who are a fit. So I will lovingly tell you and, you know, point you in the direction of someone who is a fit. I work with a lot of great coaches. So if we're not a fit, I will point you in the right direction, but I will drop a link for that. If you've even been like kind of curious and thinking, maybe I want to work with Kim, book a call with me, because again, I might not have a spot opening up right away and we can get you on the wait list that way for when a spot does open up while you're kind of thinking things over. So I will drop a link for that. I would love to support you if that is something you are interested in. And either way, for all of you who are here, I love you. Thank you for being here. Heather says thanks. I hope this was helpful. If you're watching the replay, drop your questions for me, and then I'll be back next Tuesday and we'll have another live stream. Lots of love, y'all.